One cat's mission to be lazy the entire day. Garfield Movie, coming out in a couple of weeks here in 2024, and is directed by Mark Dindal, who's also directed such films like Cats Don't Dance, The Emperor's New Groove, and Chicken Little. And this film is starring the voices of Chris Pratt, Samuel L. Jackson, Hannah Waddingham, Ving Rhames, Nicholas Hoult, Cicely Strong, Harvey Gillen, Brett Goldstein, Bowen Yang, Janelle James, and Snoop D.O. Double Jizzle. Garfield is the world's most famous cat and is popular for loving lasagna, being as lazy as all hell, and just like everyone else, hating Mondays. Well, one night while he's getting a late night snack, he is kidnapped by a spooky dog gang and is held hostage in hopes that his estranged father Vic shows up to try to save him. Thankfully he does, but he is also captured by the gang, who is led by the scary white pussycat named Jinx, who says that Vix owes her for back taxes when he walked out on her many years ago in gallons of milk. So now the price of this milk is on Vic and Garfield's heads, and they need to pay up soon or else. I'll be honest, going into this movie, I was not expecting much. I know that we had a couple of quote-unquote live-action Garfield films back in the early 2000s, I want to say, and I think those did okay, but it was during that time where they were doing a lot of CGI character, but with real-life actors and people around them, and I'm just not a big fan of those films. Well, let me rephrase. I'm not a fan of, recent ones. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is still great, but that was a great story. A lot of these modern-day ones where they take a CGI character and put it with live action, the story is not that great, they dumb it down a lot for kids, and then the adults have to go there with their children and they're laughing, but the adult there is just kind of sitting, eating their popcorn, and wishing that they made better choices in life than have a kid. So to hear that another Garfield movie was coming out, I wasn't too excited. As a kid, I would watch the cartoon Garfield all the time. I believe it came out in the 80s, definitely in the 90s, because that's when I grew up. But to my shock, I had a wonderful time watching this film, and the story, it hit me. It hit me in the feels. There are a lot of moments in here where they go back into Garfield's past when he was just a little kitten, and when he was abandoned, or so he thought, by his father, and he's just in this little crate, and then he looks across the street and he sees this pizza place, and that's where he sees John, and John's eating all by himself, and that's where John adopts Garfield, and it's just so beautiful. And I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about that. I think I watched this film at the perfect time, because earlier that day we went to a cat cafe just to sit around and hang out with all of the cats there who were just looking to be adopted, and just seeing all of them, I'm like, oh, I wish you all had homes, and I wish people would just come and pick all of you up. There was a senior cat there who was 18 years old, and his name was Gramps. He's just this frail little thing, but he's just so adorable. So I was in the mood for adorable kitty stuff, and then here in this movie we get a lot of Garfield as a kitten, and the animation, just the big googly eyes, is just beautiful. It's adorable. It just looking at it gets me teary-eyed. I'm a cat guy. What can I say? I have my cats on my arm right here. I'm also a dog person. I'm an animal person. So anytime I get to see an animal with those big, just doe eyes just staring up at you yes, I want food. Yes, I want love. It sucks me in. And this movie just sucked me in. And when I heard that Chris Pratt was doing the voice of Garfield, I'm just thinking, okay, again, Chris Pratt gets another very famous animated voice. All he has to do is just show up and lend his comedic timing to the script, but his voice actually works for it. I'm always going to prefer Bill Murray over this, but I think Chris Pratt's voice lent itself to Garfield. I was able to adapt to it, and it did work out for this animation style. And Samuel L. Jackson plays Vic, who is Garfield's father, and they rekindle all of their relationship, and Vic is this big fluffy kitty. Reminded me actually of a cat that I saw at the cat cafe. His name was Meatball. He was this big orange kitty. He was a little spicy, but if you stayed with him a little bit, he warmed up to you, and he would lean into you and just nudge you. Then he'd get a little spicy again, and then he would lean into you. I love Meatball. I wish I would have adopted him, but he's more of a one household cat, and I have 4 cats in this house, so that wouldn't have worked. But if there's a message that you get from this review, just go out there and adopt. Don't shop, adopt. But I like what they did with Samuel L. Jackson's voice for Vic. You can tell at points that it's Samuel L. Jackson, but they modulate it a little bit to make it sound a little higher and a little bit more youthful. playful. This isn't the Samuel L. Jackson voice that you hear from like Pulp Fiction who's about to cap your ass. No, this is a lovable kitty version of Samuel L. Jackson's voice, which is really fun to say, but I like it. And then we have a wonderful Ted Lasso reunion. Hannah Waddingham and Brett Goldstein are the voices. Hannah Waddingham is the voice of Jinx, and Brett Goldstein is one of the henchmen. I think he's the big the big bulldog with all the folds on him. I just like seeing the Ted Lasso cast reunite. I mean, it's Roy Kent. He's here, he's there, he's every fucking where. But I will say the villains in this film, this villain gang led by Jinx, the animation and the art design of these characters is terrifying. Jinx is this white, fluffy cat. You can tell, like, she's out of the aristocrats. You can tell that she comes from wealth. She comes from a lot of privilege. And this creepy-ass smile, this Joker-like smile that just spreads from one side of the screen to the other is so creepy. It is so scary. I felt myself just kind of go, ugh. I know this is a kid's movie, but if I was a kid and I saw that, I would be terrified, because I'm an adult watching this movie and I'm kind of terrified too. Great other cameos in here too. Of course, we have Snoop Dogg. You can't have Snoop Dogg not be in a movie with Garfield just wanting to like lay around and basically be high the entire time. Garfield gets high on food. Snoop Doggy Dogg, he gets high on other things. It's called grass, Caleb, come on. The voice cast I love the art direction and the animation of these characters, and the story just hits you in the feels. It has a lot of kid humor in it, but it also has a lot of humor for adults, and not in like it's inappropriate, but just intelligent jokes. Jokes that we as adults, we would appreciate, and kids would also appreciate too, but I think there's just a little underlying message behind a couple of the jokes where the adults are like, yeah, you don't know what they're talking about yet, kid, but you will, and you'll laugh at it then, too. And it's a wonderful rekindling relationship between this estranged father and his son, and how he always wanted to be in his life, but saw how great of a light he had with his human, with John, and he didn't want to disturb that. And I love that. I love that message. Typically, I'm a guy who doesn't like stories about, oh, if your blood, your family, you need to love your family unconditionally. But it really worked for me here. And it wasn't just about, hey, I'm your father, I'm your blood, you gotta respect me. He had to re-earn his son's respect and tell him the truth about certain things and come back for him and prove that he loved him, so that Garfield could make the choice to, yes, you are my biological father, but I'm also choosing to allow you to be my dad. It's a wonderful story, and it's a beautiful movie, and I would say out of the new releases coming out in 2024 so far, this is my favorite one out of them. I'm going to give the Garfield movie 4.5 out of 5 Blu-rays.
It's good. It's good. It's good.
So guys, if you've seen the Garfield movie, what did you think about it? Or if you've never seen it before and you stumbled across because of this video, then comment below and let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell. See you the next time I'm releasing the next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time on the channel, but in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.